Hi, this is Mark from PowerSonic. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning into this episode. I'm going to be running through the NAPIT desktop software with this one. I have asked the permission of Mike Andrews from NAPIT if it was okay for me to do this, and he said of course. So with the blessing of NAPIT, I've come up with this little video of how I use the software. We use it every day within my business, and the benefits of it, the key strengths of it, and future developments that are coming with it. So if you don't watch this video to the end, NAPIT have collaborated with Trimble. I think they've actually bought them out or merged together in some way. So that's Trimble Amtech, and there's a new version of NAPIT desktop that's coming in the not too distant future that's kind of merges a few of the best features of Amtech into the desktop software. So you've got things like your sub-maintenance circuit design, for example, and other design characteristics that are popular within Amtech. But for the moment, I think they're in the process of migrating the Trimble side of the subscription base into the NAPIT desktop system. And once that's all done and dusted, they'll be releasing it out into wider NAPIT desktop users. So that's one to look out for. I do mention that again when I'm talking through the video later on, so it's covered in a little more detail there, but I wanted to mention it because I know most people zone out and tune away before we get through the main part of the video. So anyway, we'll cut to it. It's just me going through a desktop recording of the NAPIT desktop. So enjoy. So here we are with NAPIT desktop, and I wanted to run through some of the features I really like about this software, and there's quite a few. So I've taken the camera off screen so you can see the whole thing laid out there on my desktop. Hopefully this is coming across clear enough. I've had to enter some letters into the search certificates box just to remove all of our client and installation details from the screen, because I didn't want to be giving off other people's info out into the public domain. And you can see here on the main login screen, as you enter NAPIT desktop, you've got the electrical certificates at the top, and you've got all your usual ones listed there that you'd expect to see. So your minor works, your electrical installations and EICRs, the safety record summaries, which is the linking together of prior certificates, and I'll explain about that in a short while. You've got a landlord safety record summary, portable appliance testing and fixed appliance testing. There's the temporary installations. You've got some risk assessments for arc and surge. There's some specific caravan and motorhome EICRs and a dangerous situation report. And again, if we click on fire alarms, you've got some fire alarm certificates there. We tend not to do any fire alarm work at all. Well, we don't do any other than actual supplies to isolators for fire alarms. So these are there if you were needing to use them. And again, emergency lighting, we do use these. So there's completion certificates, periodic inspection and testing, and existing site verification. There's also a ventilation one, so you can certify intermittent extract systems and continuous ones. You can notify Part P certificates through the NAPIT desktop. So if you were completing a consumer unit change, for example, you can instantly notify that job for Part P straight from NAPIT desktop without having to go onto the website and use the wizard as you would normally do. It's all contained within the one software package, makes it really simple and straightforward. And yeah, it's a really useful feature in this particular set of useful and informative ways of giving information to clients in certificates, but also making sure you're keeping on top of your paperwork, so it's all taken care of in that one package. We'll have a little quick look at some of these certificates there. So we'll start with the minor works one, and I'm not going to go to the point of filling these in because it'll just take too long, but if we'll just say this is a sample. It's just to show you how the information's presented within the certificate pack, really. And you can see there it pops straight up, and I'll maximise this screen. So there you are. You can say if it's an addition, an alteration, or if it's new. Enter all of the address details for the client and the installation itself. You can have an estimated date of the original installation, or if you know it, enter it up there. You can choose if it's amended or what version of the wiring regulations it's actually to, and then your comments on the existing installation. Fairly straightforward, and a big box to say what it is you've actually done. So this is a minor work certificate, so it wouldn't be for a major piece of installation work, but you could certainly use it for such things as like an extra socket that you've popped onto an existing circuit. You can say if it's TNCS and all the rest of it up here. You supply protective devices. You've got quick drop downs to choose what it is that you actually got on the installation. It's all really intuitive and leans you towards actually inputting the information that you need to be recording. You can't omit anything. I do have to apologise for the background noise. We've got some major building work going on at my actual office unit, and it's unavoidable. I've tried a few times to get a little quiet spot, but it's been impossible, so I'm just running with it. You can put the supply voltage in there, the prospective fault current, and the external loop impedance. All the normal information you'd need to record, so it's all there in front of you, leaning you towards making sure you're inputting everything you need. If the earthing's from the distributor or an earth electrode, again, these are all pre-populated with common things you would find in an installation, so really making life easy for filling in the certificate. Again, you can choose your material for the earthing conductors and your protective bonding conductors and your supply conductors and the CSA of them, if it's onto water and gas and oil or structural steel or whatever else. It's all there. Again, you can enter all of the information for your circuits. One of the cool things of NAPIT Desktop is say you've got this particular circuit breaker, we'll say it's a C16 for example. See, it pre-populates the maximum ZS based on the 80% value straight away, bang off the button into the certificate, so there's no entering of any extra information. It's anything that can be automated has been. And again, you've got common drop downs here you can choose. Likewise, get rid of that. You've got the AFDD test button, and test instrument serial numbers, what you're saying for the retest period, and who's actually done the work. And if we're going to print preview, you'll see here what the actual certificate looks like. So there's an explanation sheet for the client, and I think NAPIT do a really good job of actually getting their information that a certificate contains into a format that certainly for domestic customers they might be able to make sense of and understand. Something as an electrician, well, it's not really the electrician's fault, but those that write the regulations, often the forms and documents are set up in a way that electricians would understand. But I mean, the big bulk of people we need to get that information across into are end users who don't have that technical knowledge or competence to properly understand the information contained within. And I think NAPIT do a good job of trying to make that as simple and straightforward as possible, certainly within the EICRs, which we'll get to in a minute, so we don't need to save that. One of the other interesting aspects of this software is the installation safety record summary. So if we create a new one of those as well, just to quickly show you that, and you can see here it asks you to link the certificates. This is what I was saying, if you've completed an EICR and identified remedials and then completed them and done a minor work certificate or an EICE for that, you can link those together in a reference document to give to the customer. So it's a great little feature. I will just see if we can actually produce it again. I'll just use Mr. Jones as a reference, and you can have a quick look. So you can see there where the address is again, and this would all be pre-populated if you'd selected from the list that pops up before. And you can see here this record confirms that the required electrical installation certificates and minor works have been issued for the installation stated on the details of the installation tab. And basically saying there that it's now satisfactory. You know, a lot of people would ask for, or do ask, can you do the EICR again? So I've got a satisfactory report to give to a letting agent or a tenant, for example, rather than a failed report and then the remedial work on the back of it, because again, end users don't understand that. They just want to see satisfactory safe, and this is a way of doing it. And again, if you go on to print preview, it'll show you what the actual certificate looks like to the end user, so it explains what it is actually for. And then you can see it's a really simple traffic light system, if you like, that it's satisfactory and the work's carried out and by whom. So it's a nice little feature, I think, within that software package. We won't save it again. And we can also do risk assessments as well. So if we open up an arc fault risk declaration, let's quickly do that. And again, I'll just call that test, just because I don't want to be getting myself confused with all these extra certificates that I'm creating everywhere. And again, you can create the client details, installation details, who's doing the risk assessment, and then you can tick that you're advising AFDDs or not if you're not advising them. The reasons why, so you've got some pre-selected options here. You can add your own, add some notes if you want. And if you go onto the print preview, again, you'll see here the information for recipients, which explains what this actual document is for, and then the findings of what that risk assessment is, just so you've got that paper trail of everything that you're recommending or suggesting to a customer. Really nice feature. And one of the other good things of this is the caravan and motorhome EICRs. So if we create a new one, and again I'll just call it test, just so I know that that's needs to be deleted later on. And there's really a few not changes, but a few differences to a standard EICR. And the big one is here, we're actually describing what it is you're inspecting. So you can have a registration number, for example, and a VIN number, and the manufacturer, year of manufacture. The reason for producing this report is a common box, but it could be for a different reason to normal. You can choose if it's a caravan or a static caravan or a mobile home, or if it's other. Again, you've got the date options, and we'll cover this more in the EICR document later on. Even down to the further details and declaration, it's just set out a little bit different. It's just so you can record information that's appropriate to this particular installation within a caravan, for example, or a motorhome. So you've got TNCS supervised, TNCS earth confirmed. You've got that it's maybe connected by a plug and socket outlet, and all sorts of common things that you would normally record, like your PFC and your ZE or ZS, depending on what the actual supply arrangements are to the caravan. And again, here you've got your conductors to the unit structure, to the antenna, to any external stairs. It's just specific questions laid out for the actual installation. Rather than trying to make a normal EICR document fit, this is actually bespoke to that. And again, we'll go through the schedule of inspections on the proper EICR that I'm going to show you in a minute, but you can see these ones here, they're just slightly different in the way it's set out, and some of the actual inspections it's leading you towards making, which is the purpose of the exercise with these schedule of inspections. So you can see there, it's just a little bit different, as you will notice when we go back to the main EICR, but I'm not going to fill any of these in for the time being. And the boards and test option is very similar to what you would normally find. So again, you can input all of that information, and we'll cover that in a little bit. Observation's just the same. If you go on to print preview, I'll just show you what the actual certificate looks like. So you can see there's an explanation sheet of what this actually relates to. It's saying caravan and motorhome right at the top there in clear, understand red lettering. And again, you've got all of the information of the installation laid out on the first page, why it's been done, who's done it, the actual supplying characteristics, and then the traffic light system for the codes, which is a great thing NAPIT do. That goes back to getting that message over to the end users about what we're actually saying, and having those colour coded is a good thing. I mean, I do always draw down to the point that C3s are improvements recommended. The fact it's green can be a little misleading. That, you know, it's not, well, whilst it's not dangerous or potentially dangerous, it doesn't mean something shouldn't be done about it. And I think we should be making more of an onus on those in recommended improvements to clients. So perhaps making it green. Whilst I understand, you know, it wouldn't hurt to have that as a different colour for me. Maybe black. But you know, it's making the point that it's not something that's going to fail the report, if you like. So there you go. And again, you've got your schedule of inspections all the way through there, but we'll cover those in a bit more detail later on. So if we come out of that again, and we won't save it, I'll get back to the juicy part of this, the thing that I really like within a normal EICR. I will actually just cover, say you've produced an EICR on an installation, and you've failed it, and the customer's gone ahead with the remedial work. You can actually click this button here, which is copy to EIC, and that pre-populates an electrical installation certificate with all of the address details, all of the supply characteristics. So all of the common information is transferred right across to avoid you having to duplicate that entry. So you then would just need to enter what you've actually done as part of the remedial work, the test results off the back of that, and then you can tie it together in the installation safety record summary, so you've got that complete package to hand over to the client. Really nice feature, that one. But if we do a new EICR, so let's just do a normal EICR, and again I'll call this test as the reference. I won't put in any pre-populated details. And I'll run through this really quickly just to get to the schedule of inspections really. But again, you can see it's set out very simply. You can choose what the property type is, whether it's commercial, industrial or domestic, when the testing was started and finished, the client's details and the installation details, the reason for producing the report. So that could be that it's after a fire or a flood, or it's part of ongoing PPMs, or it's just round for the time that it needs to be retested. Anything you like, and make a statement if you want in there as well that it's to determine the condition of the electrical installation for ongoing safety, or whatever wording you want to use. Nice big box to get plenty of information in there. And if we move on to the further details and declaration tab, you can see here again, so you can enter general conditions of the installation. So this is where you can make a statement that it's satisfactory or unsatisfactory. You could perhaps say that the wiring system's in good order, but the circuit accessories are showing signs of heavy wear, or that some of the circuit accessories aren't suitable for the environmental conditions in which they're installed, or the opposite of that, that the accessories are in good order, but the wiring is from a period of time long since past its serviceable use, and due to the test results, you're recommending its urgent replacement. Whatever you want to say in there. And again, the extent and limitations of inspection and testing. You can cover what you're actually reporting on. So it could be that it's the whole whole dwelling, so you can say it's the dwellings if it's domestic property, or it could just be that it's a garage or a loft area or an extension, whatever it may be that you're actually inspecting. Make clear in that box so you're only responsible for what you're actually stating in there. It's a really important section of an EICR, the extent and limitations boxes. And again, you can put that you're not testing 100% of the installation or inspecting 100% of it. A lot of people just put that by default, and really it's rarely true, because you're often going to have lighting in an installation that you're not removing to do all of your IR testing, or it could be that you're not inspecting all of the cable routes because it's embedded with the fabric of the building. I know Guidance Note 3 does suggest that we can exclude the testing of fire alarm and emergency light systems beyond the point of utilisation, but it doesn't hurt to put that in there as well, because there's other elements of BS 7671 which kind of suggest you should be doing that. So if you're making clear what you are and aren't doing, that's a good thing. And again, with the limitations, you can have agreed ones that you're maybe not inspecting over a certain height, or that there is some server equipment that can't be turned off, for example, or some warehouse lighting where you're not disconnecting the LED drivers and such to do the full range of IR testing, whatever it might be. And operational limitations, they're things you encounter at the time of testing that prevent you doing the work in full. So it could be, at the moment we've got the COVID situation, so it could be that people are isolating for COVID in a certain room, and it's just not safe to move them around the premises while you're in there doing whatever it is you're doing. So obviously electrical safety matters still need taking care of, so we have to work safely on that basis, and it can result in an operational limitation, perfectly reasonable one. It could be that there's something happened on the day, for example, a client's had an urgent order come in and you can't inspect a particular area of a warehouse, or whatever it might be that's prevented you from doing this work as you would otherwise have done so. So an operational limitation to the inspection. And again, if they pop up, make sure you list them and note them, state who you've agreed them with. The more information you get in there, the better, because this is explaining exactly what you're responsible for. You can select the further inspection recommendation date, specify that. You can, these boxes are all, I've just opened that one up because that's a really quick one. You can just choose the date really quickly there, and say I was to put it for tomorrow, it'll pop up if I want to book an inspection reminder, which is a great feature. I'll choose no, because I don't want reminding tomorrow to go and do something that never done in the first place. So yeah, that's that one. Supply particulars, very similar to the other documents I've shown you, but you can state what the earthing arrangements are. It's all tick boxes and drop downs, so it's laid out in a really simple way to quickly enter all that information to make this less of a chore and more straightforward, so you're on to the important parts of the reporting. Often I get eye strain myself of entering all this information, and you come to actually fill in the test sheets and your brain's already fried just from filling out bits of data, and this is making that as simple as possible. But again, with the drop downs all the way across, choosing exactly what it is you want for protective bonding conductors and supply conductors. I won't go to the point of filling that in because it'll just turn this into like an hour-long episode. The really juicy part of this is the schedule of inspections. This is the thing where NAPIT are leading the industry with code breakers, and whilst I'm the biggest advocate of engineering judgment and electricians making those decisions themselves through their own thought processes, having some guidance there and input that industry peers have put together is a good thing, because you can use that to sort of verify your own thinking. And while you shouldn't actually code from that book, I would never tell anybody to do that, to go in the book and say this is what I've seen, that's the code I'm going to use. There are times where you might be sort of between a C2 and a C3, and a bit of a research into the code breakers book is a good thing there to help you out. And this ties in with code breakers, so some of the coding within here. So you can see across the top there, you've got all of the possible choices from these drop-down menus. You can see them all in there. And say, for example, I won't bother going to the point of passing ones all the way through this report, but let's go and look at the distribution board, and let's say the condition of the enclosure in terms of its IP rating is a C1. As soon as I click that, it gives me a list of options here. Now, if what you need to input isn't there, you can enter separately within the observations section, so you can just leave none of those selected and just click through with that particular code. But let's just say this is one here that we've got a top open in the consumer unit that's beyond IPX4. You can see it's brought up here the actual schedule inspection reference number and the regulation that this applies to, so it's all pre-populated. You can add a little note on the end here. I'll just put note XYZ so you can see that would transfer across. If I click save, you go straight over to the observation section, and that's pre-populated. How simple is that? So it's really, really good. And again, it could be that we've chosen C1 there for that for now. If we turn that to a pass and just get rid of it, and then say choose C2, actually I think I might have to clear that down on the observations as well to make this work. But let's get rid of that observation, go back to the schedule inspections, let's get back in the right place and choose C2. You can see it brings up some slightly different options based on the code you're selecting. So this is like intuitive within the software to say what they think a C2 might be, some of the common reasons for that particular code. And again, we can put it's not location, it's not suitable, just as an example. And it brings up again the options there, the regulation that apply, and you can click save. And this is the same for all of these things. So let's go down to final circuits. And for example, we'll do condition of circuit accessories. Let's quickly say C1, and I won't save these. I'll come back out and see if I can change it straight in here. But socket outlet's been damaged, exposing live parts. Shows you the regulation that applies to that. If I cancel that off, and I think this will work straight away this time. Choose C2. Yes, it does. You can see here that socket face is showing signs of thermal damage. You get a whole list of other options. So let's say we've got covers of accessories are in place but not adequately secured. So basically backbox screws are missing, for example. It'll give you a regulation number, and you can save that, go over to the observations and see it in there. I mean, again, with the observations you can add your own, so you can start writing your own code, whatever it would be. So you could put a C2 because there's an outside box that's cracked or whatever, I don't know, whatever you want to put, and reference your own regulation to it, and then choose your own code. So I probably came up with a really lame example there, but you can see what I mean. If we delete that observation off, you can copy observations as well. So you could copy that one. Say you've wanted to put that actually applies to a light switch in the kitchen. You can put that on the end. This is just so people can find the actual issue themselves. And you could put that one as the socket in the front room, for example. Depends how descriptive you want to get. And that comes down to, again, handing this to a client who needs to understand it. If you've got pages and pages and pages of codes for a domestic property, there's every likelihood they're not going to read them. So it's often better to make the generic statement on the report of why you've come to the conclusions you have, and then actually go around with the client and show them. That's often the best way. But certainly when you're producing commercial reports, you need everything listed and itemised. It's always a good thing to do that, because you're often not given the opportunity to walk around with somebody and show them a huge installation in full and everything you've identified. It's going to be passed down to other electricians or maintenance people to look at. So there's that one there. If we go back into the schedule of inspections again, and you can see if you pass them, I'll pass a few and then it'll show in the, I won't even read them, but I'll just pass these, and you can see how it presents in the schedule of inspections in a moment. The boards and tests, they're all laid out as you would expect, what we showed before really. So you've got the DB designation, the person who's tested it, when they've tested it, where it's located, how many ways, if it's 3-phase or single phase, the test set serial numbers. There is this quick supply option for larger installations, so if you put a main panel board up, for example, loads of sub-mains, you can choose that there, click this box and it'll pre-populate all of this information into here for you, again avoiding entry, which is a good thing. You've got the characteristics of this distribution board and any details of equipment or such that's going to be damaged when testing. Yeah, that quickly runs through that. And if you go back to the details of the installation, you can have a generic continuation sheet, or if you want, you can have schedules for the actual distribution board rather than a generic schedule of inspections for the whole installations. You can add a Part 7 location, you can see up there. So it's all user defined, exactly what you want to have. You can switch the 18th edition tab on, whatever you want to do. It's all there. And if we go into print preview again, you can see you get an explanation sheet. And again, this is where NAPIT excel for me with the actual structure and layout of the report. You've got this colour coding system, and again, I still have argument with that being green, but you know, it's still set out in a way that's making the point more towards the C1 and C2s that people need to get on with sorting those out. And again, if you go through the schedule of inspections, you can see where I ticked those few. You've got a green tick where we've identified that there's these phantom issues. We've got the yellow C2s, it would be a red C1. we'd left those in there, and then the test results page. I know some software packages split these up with the circuit details and test results. My own personal preference is to get them on one page because it's easier to scroll through as the person looking at the document and installation that's in front of you. And likewise, again, going back to end users, if they've got pages of numbers and bits and pieces everywhere, it's hard for them to look at and understand what you're saying. So having it all on one page is a good thing for me. I'm in support of that. And yeah, you can master the certificate, and then it would master it without this working description through the form. You'd have a certificate number, and then you can save it as a PDF. So really straightforward, all from this one point. So you could save master here. That print preview would change to a mastered certificate, and then save it as a PDF to send on to a client. So a really useful bit of software, and we won't save that one again. And just talking about the NAPIT software, they have actually just taken over or joined forces with Trimble and Amtech. So they're actually integrating the Amtech customers into NAPIT Desktop at the moment. I think they've actually expanded on NAPIT Desktop to include some of the Trimble features like design and laying out of submains, which are good. I've used Amtech myself before, and there's some of the features that I really like of that software. But they're just migrating all of the customers from Trimble into that system, and I believe we're due an upgrade for NAPIT Desktop soon, which will incorporate some of those features for us to start using as well. But they're just onboarding those people first, making sure they've got all the gremlins ironed out and that everything's worked properly there, which is sensible, before just throwing everyone into the same system and having everything flag up issues all along. Go slow and steady and make sure you're getting things right, which my experience of NAPIT and the way they've developed this software rings true. That's the way they've always approached it when there's been snags identified. So it can be something simple like a spelling mistake, or that there's a box not quite aligning in the right way. They sort it out within an hour or so. They're really responsive, and listening to their members for things that we highlight and identify to get the certificate package we all want to see and use. So I'll jump back into the rest of the video now. I hope you found that little walkthrough interesting, and I use other software packages as well. I won't go on to describe them here, but for me this is the best one I've ever used, and a big supporter of the NAPIT Desktop software package. Thank you. So I hope you found that useful and you saw some of the key features and benefits of the software. As you'll have seen within the walkthrough on the desktop recording, I'm a big fan of the EICR section in particular and the way the coding's highlighted. Certainly within a domestic client base, it's difficult to get the message across about what's actually in those reports because they're not technically aware, if you like. So the way it's presented in a traffic light colour coding system and the report is clearly structured, it makes it a little bit easier. I still do think that the generic forms within the wiring regulations either need some sort of covering of a document to present to a domestic homeowner where the information is easily digested, or changing drastically, so when it's presented to them, got a good chance of actually knowing what the electricians are trying to tell them. It saves us having to then produce another document explaining what it actually says and what needs to be done. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that quick run through of the software really, and yeah, I really enjoy using NAPIT Desktop. Not been paid at all for this, obviously. It's just my own personal opinion, and I hope you found it useful. If you wasn't aware of some of the features and some of the benefits and what that software can actually do, now you know. While we're on it, just to throw in there a little tool review. You'll hear him chopping away back there. We've got some building work going on in the units, so apologies about that. It's just non-stop, but it's fair enough. There's this from Milwaukee. So this is their take on like a junior hacksaw, if you like. We've all seen the steel wire armour cutting tools that you can get. So there's the CK Armour Slice. There's I've forgotten the name of the other one now, but it's a bit like a plumber's pipe cutter where you spin it around and it cuts the tube. You can actually use plumber's pipe cutters as long as you've got the cutting blade that will do steel tube. It would also cut your armoured windings, but obviously they don't open wide enough for big cable. And you can't beat a hacksaw. I mean, generally speaking, I use a full-size hacksaw, but this is a good little tool to chuck in your tool tote or your tool bag. It's small, the blade's removable, it's quick release. You can put the hacksaw blades in this as well, which is what drew me to it. This one's just a bimetal cutting blade, so 24 tooth, 10-inch cutting blade. Sorry, 24 TPI. And yeah, that's from Milwaukee. So you see that on there. pop it up on Instagram as well. It wasn't too expensive, nice little tool that I saw knocking around on Amazon, so I thought I'd pick it up. I'm going to give it a go on some steel wire armour this week, thought we'd try it out on that. So that was a nice big wide handle. That's the biggest complaint of the little junior hacksaws, when you've got old man fat arthritic hands. They don't fit in the handles very nicely, and the big hacksaws can be a bit cumbersome to be dragging around in your bag. So thought that might be a nice little feature to throw into the video, so it's not all just software and desktop recordings. Another recommendation from me, and I'll cover this in another video later on in use, so you can see how it actually works and performs. So hope you've enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. It means a great deal to me now with this channel to keep it growing. Trying to just promote and support electricians and apprenticeships, and showing how a business can thrive through the apprenticeship system by employing other people and developing as an electrical contracting firm. And that's all this is about, really. Nothing I do is paid or sponsored. It's all just me waffling away in and around doing the day job. So I hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching.